When is the right time to rebalance your accounts, and why is it important to do so? We're gonna be talking through these 2 points here today, giving you a little bit of information on how to think through these important decision points. I was having a conversation not too long ago with a newer client. We were working through the discovery process and we got to their employer-sponsored plans. They happen to be TSP accounts. And I said, when was the last time you rebalanced these accounts, and why do you own the positions that we own within them? And we really couldn't get to an answer on either one of those questions. It just seemed they had made a decision a few years ago and hadn't paid much attention to it since. We see this happen a lot, right? And too many times that employer plan is the largest investment that you have and it's not getting paid attention to. It had some real consequences here. So the mix wasn't really where it needed to be based on what we came up with in their financial plan. So part of the reason why rebalancing is so important is it helps keep you on track with your financial plan. Your investment mix should be created based on what your goals are, your goals and needs, your time horizon, your risk tolerance, putting all those things together and crafting the right mix for you, right? And if you get off track, it can have some real adverse consequences with your ability to meet and hit your goals. One thing specifically I want to point out is the sequence of returns. If you're less than 5 years from retirement, we see way too many people taking a tremendous amount of risk in their portfolios, and it can really derail their plans to retire, their ability to generate as much income as they'd like when they get to retirement. So sequence of returns and rebalancing and keeping the right investment mix, really important things to be considering. All right, so that gives you a little background on why it's important. And also the asset class performance has been historically very unpredictable. Now I know the last 10 years it's been all about large caps, and we can take a quick look at this chart. So this just shows over the years, over the last 20 years, how different asset classes performed, and each color is a different asset class on this chart. And you can see how random it appears. I remember when I started back in 2001, international stocks and small caps, mid caps were really leading the charge, and they were the hot investment class for a number of years. And that all shifted and changed about 10 years ago, and large cap US stocks have really just been leading the charge ever since. But it's not a straight line, and there's a lot of value in having different asset classes to complement one another when it comes to different market cycles and creating the right mix for you. So how do you go about rebalancing? What's the right way to do this? I think there's 2 ways we can look at here today to give you a little bit of an idea and some framework on how to go about approaching this. Lots of folks will use one of these 2 strategies. They'll use a set date strategy, which just means I'm looking at the calendar and I'm picking 2 dates, right? So I'm gonna look at this thing twice a year and I'm gonna see if there's any opportunity to make changes. June and December, great opportunities to do that. Mid-year, end of year, right? So we're sitting down and just looking to see what needs to be adjusted, what's performed well, what hasn't, what's changed in our situation, what's changed in our financial plan to tweak anything here, okay? Now, set date is awesome. I love this. Like, everybody should use a set date, but you can also combine that with something that gives you more of a framework for how to make changes. That means a little bit more work. What we're going to look for here is when your portfolio drifts or changes from the targeted allocation, because certain asset classes perform better than others all throughout the course of the year and over time, right? So it's important to monitor that. When certain thresholds are reached, you make changes, right? And one of the popular ones is the 5%, 25% rule. Now, we don't have to use this. It's just to give you an idea. It's not perfect by any means, but it says if any position in your portfolio changes on a 5% absolute basis, it's time to move that back to where it was to start, or whatever your target is. And the 25% is really targeted for smaller allocations in the portfolio. So if that moves 25% on a relative basis from where it should be, then you need to move that back as well. So for example, the 5% would apply, let's say, your total equity allocation should be 70%, but because of market performance, we've done really well, it's up to 80. But now it's time to move that back. Combination of trades to get that back to your 70% and move some money into your other conservative buckets to get you back to your targeted allocation, okay? 25% rule, just to give you an example, could be, a 5% small cap allocation that you like. It moved up to 7% with good performance. That means we need to trim it. That's over the 25% threshold, which would be 6.25%. So we get back to the 5. Okay, simple way to look at it. Now, of course, this works in both directions. If an asset class underperforms, let's say your large cap value should be at 28%, but it's underperformed, now it's at 23. Also an opportunity to shift things and get you back to what that targeted allocation should be. All along, taking into consideration what's changed in your situation with your goals and with your financial plan. A couple other things real quick to consider. You want to be tax sensitive. So if it's a retirement account, it's not going to matter much if you make trades that won't generate any tax consequences. But if it's a taxable investment account, you definitely don't want to trigger unwanted capital gains and income coming in, creating tax burden for you. Okay, so that's one thing to think about. The other way to approach this might be if you have new money flowing in, you're still in the accumulation phase, you may use the new money to rebalance your positions, especially in taxable accounts. That can be a great way, fund the ones that are a little bit under where they need to be with the new money, okay? For most people, I think it makes a ton of sense to put this on the calendar and take a look at things at least twice a year. If you can't do it twice a year, try to get there at least once, or taking a look at things and just seeing if anything needs to be adjusted. Use your financial plan as the rationale for why you're making the decisions and what your investment mix should be. Of course, better results aren't guaranteed, but our whole goal here is to stick to our plan so that we can fund our goals and give ourselves the best opportunity to do that and to have success. And again, that sequence of returns thing, very, very important. So if you have questions on anything we talked about here today in terms of rebalancing, creating a schedule, how to go about approaching this, would love to be a resource for you. And if you can, please give us a like and subscribe. If you found value here, please share with a friend or a colleague. We're really trying to grow the channel, share as much education with people as we can. This stuff's too important not to pay close attention to. Until next time.